I'm your host, Eric Novak of the Wrestling Republic, and today we have a special guest. You can see him on New Japan. He is a member of the United Empire, Jeff Cobb.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Man, it's an honor to have you, dude. I've been wanting to get you on for a long time, and I'm really happy that, it finally worked out and you're able to do it.
Hey, time differences in Japan are rough, but back in the States, so time differences are so much easier out here. So East Coast is not a problem.
Awesome. All right, well, let's talk about why you decided to pursue pro wrestling.
Well, I've been a fan since I was a kid, so I've always wanted to do it for as long as I can remember, and that's pretty much the only thing I really wanted to do was just be a wrestler. And I am one now, so.
What made you wanna, who inspired you? Was there any wrestler that you followed as a kid that you were a huge fan of?
Well, I mean, like a majority of people will admit that Hulk Hogan was the one that drew them in. I was a huge Hulkamaniac kid. Like, he was just, like, for me, he was, like, larger than life, the man that is just, like, so big and so positive and so good that, that drew me in definitely. Like, I wanted to be just like Hulk Hogan.
Awesome. That's great. And how was your first match like? Because I know everyone's first match has a pretty funny story to it. So how was your first ever wrestling match? What was your gear? What was, going through your head at that time?
Well, I debuted about maybe 6 months into training. It was our anniversary show. I started off training in Hawaii, and I was doing like ring crew and security, and it was our big anniversary show. Like, our big anniversary show is like around June every year, and one of the guys that was wrestling on the show, he was a military guy, but he had some pro wrestling training, so he started wrestling for us in Hawaii. He no-showed the show, and so our promoter was like, "Hey, Jeff, do you want to wrestle tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Screw it." I didn't have any gear because I wasn't expecting to debut. It was a hand-me-down pair of biker shorts from the promoter, and I just used that and like knee pads and wrestling shoes, and we're off and running.
That's really funny, and it's one of those coincidences that really worked out. I'm sure you killed it, and I'm sure that started more opportunities coming your way. How was it wrestling in Hawaii? How's that like, having schools there and training?
It's great. I mean, Hawaii has a great history, dating back to like the 60s and 70s. Like, it was a hot spot. Like, everybody wanted to go to Hawaii. If you like, you've listened to a lot of podcasts, like they'll talk about like older podcasts, if you will, and they'll be talking about like how they loved going to Hawaii because it's pretty much you wrestle and then you just hang out on the beach and party. So like, Hawaii's got a great rich tradition in professional wrestling. So it was, I felt like it was fate that I happened to be out there and start training wrestling. I mean, there's pros and cons, obviously. Like, the pros being it's Hawaii. The cons is Hawaii. So like, professional wrestling, like if you ended up taking bookings elsewhere, it's a 5-hour flight from Hawaii to the West Coast. So, I mean, if you can imagine going to the East Coast, it's even worse. So, yeah. So, I mean, that's like the only negative about that is just Hawaii is so far away from the mainland block of the United States. So it's just hampers and it hinders the pro wrestlers out in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. And when did you decide to come to the States? When did you start, going to travel and come back, and how was that like? When did that happen for you?
I did a tournament out in California, in San Francisco, like the Bay Area, for All Pro Wrestling from Beyond the Mat fame. Actually, I didn't do a tournament first. We did a show like Hawaii versus APW, and I wrestled Timothy Thatcher in the main event. And the booker at the time, who became one of my good friends, suggested that I get out of Hawaii if I wanted to pursue wrestling. Just because, not because like Hawaii wrestling is bad or anything. It's just the fact that it's so like
Overlooked.
a lot of the eyes aren't on Hawaii wrestling. You know, like if you're in Hawaii, that's one thing, but like WWE, they're not looking to Hawaii to recruit wrestlers or anything like that. So like I definitely felt like I had to get out because I've done everything in Hawaii. I won the heavyweight championship twice, and there's only like a limited roster and who you can wrestle over and over and over again. So I just felt like my time was time to move on and try new things.
All right, that's awesome. And how was that decision like? That must have been probably one of the hardest decisions you had to make, was to leave home and start living elsewhere to pursue your dream. How was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a different experience and a very eye-opening experience. I went from living in Hawaii paradise to moving to Folsom, California. Not saying it's bad or anything. It's just it's different. Like people in California, they're talking about, oh, let's go to the beach. Let's go to the beach, and we go to the beach, and it's nothing like Hawaii beaches. So it's very disappointed in that. But the fact that my time there when I started in like if you take California, you cut it in half. Usually California is described as Northern California and Southern California. In Northern California at the time, there was like 25 to 30 independent companies running shows. So, I mean, that, being away from Hawaii was really a tough and sad decision. But the fact that there was like 30 companies doing shows within a 2-3 hour drive was something I was looking forward to. So, and then that definitely, because like the only way you're going to get better is constantly wrestling. And it was rough doing that in Hawaii because we'd run a show maybe once or twice a month. Whereas in California, you can do once or twice a weekend or even 3 or 4. So yeah, it was a good decision to move.
I totally agree. And talk to me about, the events. How was your schedule like? Like, it took a lot to get used to, I believe, after leaving and going elsewhere to wrestle. I'm sure dates, you had more dates to wrestle, you had more traveling. How was all that like? How did you get used to that? What did you do to get used to all of that?
Well, I mean, for me personally, when I moved to California, I was working for very little to no money sometimes. So I had to get I transferred jobs from when I was in Hawaii to California, and it worked out perfectly. So I had that income coming in where I was doing the quote unquote the grind to live off of professional wrestling. And it was just, so I could only take bookings like Friday, Saturday, Sundays. When I first started wrestling in California, though, like to say I was new, like a lot of people weren't using me in the early stages. So, I definitely have a lot of love for the companies that gave me an opportunity when I first got there. And it's definitely different now. Like when you have a name and then some of the companies are like, hey, Jeff, hey, best friend kind of thing. I'm like, I remember those days when like you wouldn't even put me on a show. And I was just looking for exposure. I mean, I'd be happy to get a hot dog and a handshake, but so it's funny when it comes full circle. But I try not to like take that into account when I take bookings. But I definitely remember like who was there when I was on my way up. So yeah, much love to certain California companies.
That's when you made it. When you have those like memories of like you didn't look at me this way, now you look at me that way. That's how you know you're making it. That's how you know you're getting far. So my next question is, what was your first big break? There's a lot of amazing companies, but what was that one company that finally made you like a name out there? Like, oh my God, like it was one of those events. Like it could be PWG, for example. I know you had a lot of PWG that's one of those companies that, you know, had a lot of amazing stars coming out. Is there any company that you remember that you wrestled where you finally like felt like you made it due to like the roster or the arena or the people that came?
I want to say it's maybe it's like 70 to 30%. It was like when I did Lucha Underground before I ever did any PWG shows. But the only downfall with that was like Lucha Underground, I was under a mask. So nobody really knew who Jeff Cobb was.
Yeah.
They only knew the character that I portrayed. But when I got into PWG and I did that first PWG show against Chris Hero, and like my booking inquiries went up like 1,000-fold, and it was such a surreal feeling because like I've known of PWG for a while prior to working there, and the reputation that they have of it's an all-star wrestling roster. So being able to debut for them and being a part of that roster, like it definitely bumped my stock value up tenfold. So I definitely always attribute it to like my success now. Definitely attributed to the Pro Wrestling Guerrilla.
And what was your favorite match in that company?
There's quite a few. There's quite a few. Like definitely my debut with Chris Hero, just because like I know Southern California at that time, like I never wrestled in Southern California, except with the exception of Lucha Underground. But it just definitely my PWG debut. A lot of people think that that 10-man tag I did on my first Bola, like that video clip went viral with like a thumb in the ass train thing. That's not my cup of tea, but when legends in this business want to do that, like who am I, an unknown commodity, to say no, right? So I went along for the ride.
All right, and man, that's how you make it. You just got to go with the flow and follow the lead of the people who've been there longer and have more to show. You know what I mean? That's all it is in pro wrestling. So something I do want to talk about is Lucha Underground. I'm sorry that I went past the timeline with PWG. Lucha Underground, was definitely probably one of your first big breaks because it was a televised thing. People were watching it on their TV. Yes, you were wearing a mask, but I was curious what your thoughts were on Lucha Underground. And, what were the pros, what were the cons?
Well, I mean, Lucha Underground was great. I mean, they had such a the roster at the time was like they gave opportunities to people that other companies never really gave opportunities to. And I mean, if you look at the roster, a lot of the guys came from that Tough Enough season where you had like Marty the Moth and Eva Lise and Matt Cross. Like, some of the guys came from there. Like I think they were painted in a certain light, and then when they came to Lucha Underground, they had a chance to shine more than what that Tough Enough season gave them, and it definitely like it gave all these quote unquote unknown guys a huge opportunity, and every single one of them, whatever opportunity they were given, like definitely went above and beyond expectations. And I had such a blast at Lucha Underground. Like you're talking about pros and cons. Like the pros was like that locker room was so fun. Like we all hung out after the tapings. We all hung out during the tapings. So it was a great time for everybody. And like, the catering, like because it was a TV show, they had great catering, so I can't complain about that. But the cons was it for me personally. It was a TV company, so like I felt a lot of times the TV company kind of stepped over the lines and was kind of bleeding into the wrestling aspect of it. And I mean, I'm sure you remember all the headlines about like, wrestlers like getting lawyers and whatnot. And it was just one of those things where it's like, I wish it could have been handled differently, where we didn't have to go public with those kind of things. But I mean, at the end of the day, you know, they're going to do what they want to do. We're going to, you know, we're looking out for our livelihood essentially. And, you know, I was kind of bummed the way it ended, but I mean, the 4 seasons that I spent there were definitely magical. I'll definitely have more stories whenever I write my autobiography. So stay tuned for that.
Can't wait to read that. Can't wait to read that. Yeah, you know, I've interviewed a lot of guys from Lucha Underground that, you know, are doing different things now. And a lot of things I've always heard about was there was no air conditioning. That was like a huge problem I heard from a lot of people, that it was basically a sauna in there.
Yeah, like there was a few times like when we filmed during like, I think like July or August, if memory serves me well. But man, because it was just a warehouse, a random ass warehouse in the center of Boyle Heights, and just the heat from a warehouse and then at the same time you add in all the camera lights. Man, I was roasting out there. Plus I had a bodysuit and a mask on.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, I was dying after that. I was losing like 10 pounds every match or something, but I was sweating up a storm. But I mean, the fans, you know, I was like, you know, I can't complain too much because, yeah, I'm out there wrestling and sweating my ass off in front on all these lights and but then the fans were out there as well. So, you know, like the fans were so excited the whole taping time. So like, you know what? If they're not complaining, I'm not going to complain.
That's a great attitude to look at it. So one thing I also want to ask you is, going after like leaving the Lucha Underground conversation, is what was your favorite match in Lucha Underground? I know you had so many, but you know, I have a pick. I'm sure you have one. And then what is your favorite match in Lucha Underground in general, like out of the matches that you witnessed?
Probably one that I witnessed was Rey Mysterio and Ricochet, or Prince Puma. That was a wonderful match. I thought it was really good. For myself personally, I mean, I can't not mention the my debut. You know, being able to pin 10 wrestlers, and the final wrestler that I pinned is Rey Mysterio Jr. Whew, possibly the greatest luchador of all time. You know, I can't complain about that. And then getting a singles match with him was amazing in itself. So definitely those two stick out. I had a match with Mil Muertes where I pretty much almost tore my knee, and I had to like finish the second half of the match with a messed up knee. And man, that was rough. But I mean, you know, like for us wrestlers, we take pride in what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're hurt, I mean, if it's still attached, we're going to try to finish the match. And, you know, I wanted to finish the match for the fans. And thankfully I did. It sucked, but, you know, whatever. It's okay. Things will heal.
Again, perfect attitude. I love talking to you. I love this like perfect attitude that you have through rough situations. It's pretty interesting and pretty impressive. So now that we're at the Lucha Underground part, I do want to talk about Ring of Honor, and I'm not going to get too much into detail about it. I just want to know what your thoughts on what's going on or what happened, and what was your fondest memory being a part of Ring of Honor?
Well, you're talking about the current situation with Ring of Honor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I first read it, it was definitely heartbreaking. Because I spent a good year and a half there. And I was scheduled for some stuff before the pandemic hit. Everybody in that locker room was great. Backstage, they were great. And I had a blast working there. And same with when we're talking about PWG, you know, Ring of Honor, their reputation and their history is revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the style of wrestling that they did early on that continues to this day is definitely something that attracted me signing there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I don't feel like I made a bad choice going there. I definitely enjoyed my time there. Like I mentioned, like they take care of you. And I know, like, talking to some friends, like during the pandemic, they didn't have to pay you, or, and it's not talking smack on other companies, but, some companies released wrestlers during the pandemic. In, Ring of Honor, granted, they weren't running shows with fans, so, they're not generating as much money as they once was, but, to their point, they paid their wrestlers their contracted wages, and I commend that. I give them a round of applause, definitely. Like, especially in a global pandemic, for a company to say, hey, we're gonna stick true to our word and pay you while we're down. That's I definitely give them a round of applause. And it sucks because I have a lot of friends that still work there, and I feel like I hope. Because I don't know, the last thing I heard was like they're doing like a rebranding or something,
They'll come
and I
back
hope
in
they
a
do.
year. Yeah. This thing.
And
My bad.
I hope I hope they come back, just for the fact that, like, I feel like the more options you have, places to work and wrestle and make a good living, is for pro wrestling. Because like, if they go down and whatever, and there's only like 2 or 3 places where you can make a good living, it gets really crowded at the top, so if there's more options, I think that's better, especially for wrestling, because you don't want to have the same 2 or 3 products all the time. Like, you want to try different things and whatnot, so it's good to have options. I definitely hope they do come back, and I'm pulling for them.
Awesome. And again, what was your like fondest memory? Like, is it a match? Locker room stories, or anything that you have about Ring of Honor that you really enjoyed and keep to yourself?
Well, when I had my debut match, winning the world television championship in 2.5 minutes over Punishment Martinez. Hope he sees this. I want to tag him, but no, yeah. I mean, I don't know what is Punishment Martinez. Damian Priest now, right?
Yeah.
So I give him props because he didn't have to do that for me, and but it was cool, man. Like, I appreciated that. So I mean, winning a title in the first match in a company is always something that you could write home about. But was that, and then also the final battle, 2018, because like myself and Hangman Adam Page were wrestling for the TV championship, and I felt like we didn't get as much, I guess, I don't know, not buzz isn't the right word, but like just notoriety for that match leading up to the pay-per-view. Because like, like, I feel championship should definitely be, because that's what people are fighting for in pro wrestling. So I feel like they could have advertised us a little bit more. So like, I think we went in that match with a chip on our shoulders, and we just wanted to pretty much kill it, and then come back through the curtain and be like, yep, follow that, guys. And I think myself and Adam Page did it. So like, those are the 2 that first like pop up on the top of my head. Also the MSG was cool too.
I'm gonna bring up MSG right now. I live in Brooklyn, New York. Sadly I didn't go to that show, but I've watched it multiple times, and I just gotta say, you and Ospreay, you guys killed it in that match. What was your feeling going into that match? That audience, that crowd, how was on? Because that's probably one of the largest arenas you wrestled. I'm sure.
Yeah, I think what MSG tops out as, like, what, 17,000, 18,000 people or something like that.
Around
I mean,
there.
it definitely ranks up there.
It's no Tokyo Dome, but yeah.
But I think, I mean, well, first and foremost, it's MSG. That's ridiculous in itself. Like, it was such an honor to wrestle there, just for the fact that, I mean, other than WWE, no real other company's been in Madison Square Garden for about, what, 50 years, 60 years, somewhere along those lines. So, like, being able to wrestle in Madison Square Garden not a part of WWE was a huge thing, not just for New Japan and Ring of Honor, but for myself as well. And then being the first match on the live stream pay-per-view was definitely nerve-wracking. I mean, if I was wearing that thing, I probably would have pissed myself. You guys probably could have seen it. But yeah, and then being the first title change in Madison Square Garden, is amazing in itself. So it was very surreal. I tried to take everything in, but it was just like a tornado of emotions, and it was so difficult to take everything in. Even though I tried to, I took pictures and just walked the halls, and it didn't do it justice, man. So it was rough. It was rough, like in the sense that I was trying to take it all in, but it was too much. It was too taken. But yeah, it was such a highlight of my career, man. Like just being able to do that.
So my next question about that is, I was actually going to get tickets to the one right before 2021, like right before COVID. There was going to be an MSG show. Were you going to participate in that one as well?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I'm waiting for them to come back to MSG, and I'll be at that one. I'm waiting for that one. So now I want to talk about New Japan. There's so much to talk about. That G1 was amazing. You dominated, and I know you have so much more to do. So before I start there, I just want to ask you, why join the United Empire? What was your choice for that?
Well, I feel that I think it was like probably 4 years up to that point, I was wrestling for New Japan, off and on. Mm-hmm. And it was, I kind of felt like I was spinning my wheels, like just trying to, being a happy-go-lucky guy, and it wasn't getting me anywhere really. I mean, yeah, I got, I won the Never Open Championship in Madison Square Garden, but I feel like with my attitude at that time, was the reason why I lost it on my first defense in Japan. Mm-hmm. So, that definitely left a chip on my shoulder. Being a happy-go-lucky guy didn't get me championship opportunities that I wanted and I felt like I could do. And I didn't feel joining one of the regular groups would have gotten me anywhere, because Bullet Club's been around for a while. Suzuki Gun's been around for a while. Chaos has been around for a while. LIJ, I don't think they're taking applications. So this opportunity came up where I could join a brand new faction with guys kind of like the same mentality as myself, where we're getting overlooked. Guys like, Ospreay's been overlooked by Okada, who brought Ospreay into Chaos. Mm-hmm. And guys like the Great Okan, who went on excursion and came back, he was getting overlooked. Aaron Henare is getting overlooked. TJP, Aussie Open, whoever we bring in, we're looking for a certain type of mentality. And I think, not like a chip on our shoulder, it's just going to motivate us to dominate. And, I feel like we've been dominating the past couple months. So I think I definitely made the right decision.
Who reached out to who? Did you reach out to Ospreay, or did Ospreay reach out to you when it came to that matter?
Oh, definitely Ospreay reached out to me.
All right. So that's awesome. Again, I'm a huge member of the Empire. I bought shirts and I bought a hat, waiting for that to come in the mail, hopefully soon. And I'm excited to see what else is happening, especially with you coming, or you already being in the States, and you're gonna be at Death of the Valley and That Nation. You got so much going on with Shibata's group and his Young Lions. It's going to be cool to see what happens there. But since you brought it up a little bit, I just want to add more to it. What were your thoughts on Will Ospreay? Him being the leader, what were your thoughts on joining him? What was the thing that really made you decide that he was worth following?
Well, I feel like there's no real leader in the United Empire. It's more along the lines of like we'll rally behind people who are in the spotlight at that moment. Prime example, when myself, the Great Okan, and Will Ospreay, all three of us were in the New Japan Cup tournament. I unfortunately lost in the second round. The same with the Great Okan, and Ospreay made it to the finals. So we'll support him. So his time to shine. When on one of the shows, the Great Okan had a main event singles match with Tetsuya Naito, myself and Will Ospreay went out and supported Okan. And at that moment, technically he was the leader of the United Empire because he had that main event match that night. So I feel like the United Empires, there's no leader per se. It's just whoever has the ball and running, we're gonna block for him.
All right.
And eventually the play's gonna go run the other way, and one of us is gonna get the ball and run, and then that person can run with it, and we'll block for him.
All right, perfect. And that's probably what's gonna be, the death of all the other factions, because they don't have that kind of system that you guys do. It's a very interesting system. I didn't even notice it or think about it like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, because if you look at it, Chaos, you look at it, and Okada will say he's a leader. Suzuki Unit's in the damn group name. Bullet Club, they don't even know who their leader is. They're fighting over that mantle. And while that's happening, we're slowly and quietly taking over whatever company we show up in. So I feel, that's going to only benefit us in the long run.
Yeah. And talk to me about Aussie Open, TJP. Those are being, the newest members. What are your thoughts on them?
Well, I know we're looking for a junior who could also wrestle in the heavyweight division, and TJP definitely works out perfectly in that sense. I feel he's definitely got a chip on his shoulder, and he's got the right mentality to be in the United Empire. Same with Aussie Open, man. It sucked for them because the pandemic hit, and we couldn't get them over to Japan sooner, because we definitely wanted them to come and join us a lot sooner than planned. But you know what? It's okay. I think it worked out in the end, and now the world's going to see Aussie Open and TJP in a different light, and I'd say in a more dominant light. And that's only going to benefit the United Empire, because when one person wins in the United Empire, everybody wins.
Of course. So talk to me about the G1. You dominated. That must have been insane, just reading article after article about how you're going 8-0 and how it's, numbers are just going, better and better for you, how people are just noticing you in different versions of how they noticed you before. How was that like, just reading stuff and every day just getting ready for the next match?
Well, this G1, I definitely felt like it was a giant middle finger to the naysayers, and a "I told you so" sign. So, I just needed an opportunity, and New Japan wasn't offering it. United Empire was, and I took that opportunity, ran with it. So, yeah, I mean, if you look at the domination of the United Empire in the G1, we didn't win, but we put everybody on notice, and everybody was afraid of us after that. I can't speak on the A block side because I was on the B block, but I'm sure everybody had newfound respect and fear for the Great Okan. Myself being the man who broke Tanahashi's single G1 record, and I also broke his back in the match. It was great. So, I can't complain too much about that. I wasn't happy with the outcome, that Okada beat me on the final night. But you know what? I feel New Japan favors Okada. They would have hated if I was in the finals, because, like the United Empire, we do things our own way. And Okada is New Japan's golden goose. So, but that's totally fine, because whether it be Okada or Shingo, they both have targets on their back
Of course.
after them. So,
what I do want to talk about also is that final match on Okada and Kota Ibushi. You watching it, seeing Kota Ibushi struggle and wanting to keep going. What did that, say going through your head? Watching just how these people will fight for their own lives just to keep going.
Well, and it just shows the world and brings it to the world that the G1, to win the G1, they're willing to risk life and limb for this tournament. And and you talk to anybody that's ever done a G1 tournament, it's by far the hardest tournament in the world. It's physically demanding on the body, and it's not fun. I mean, if you look at some of the guys that have only done it once, and then you more than welcome to ask them why they only did it once. Well, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but yeah, it's tough, man. So, seeing like Ibushi get hurt and still wanting to keep going, as a fellow professional wrestler, I feel his pain. That sucks. But, if I was in the finals against Kota Ibushi, I would have broke his arm too. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter either way. But, it sucks. I never want to see anybody get hurt unless they're in the ring with me. Then I'll hurt them. That's not a problem. But, it just shows the intestinal fortitude, if you will, of New Japan wrestlers when it comes to the G1.
And what do you think of Okada bringing back the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship? Because I know that must sting a little bit, since Ospreay is the real champion, and because he's not there, they have different people holding different titles. How do you feel about that situation?
Well, I feel Okada needs the limelight, so he's bringing that to shed some more light on him, which is fine. Because if we were to cross paths again, I wouldn't mind taking that from him. Granted, that is the equivalent of the briefcase. So, I mean, I'd rather much carry around that nice history-laden belt than a stupid briefcase, but, whatever. I mean, he can bring it back. And, I feel like if you won the G1, there's a certain level of stuff that you can get away with. If you are the heavyweight champion, there's some stuff you can get away with. So that's fine. So like I said earlier, whoever wins is definitely going to have a target on their back, whether that be from Ospreay or myself or the Great O'Khan or Hanare or TJP or Aussie Open.
Mm-hmm. All right. And one more thing I wanted to talk about is with New Japan going in is what are your goals now? What's next for you? I know you're coming back, to fight on Strong for a little bit. Is that stuff that you want to get involved with? Do you want to get involved with the Young Lion stuff, or do you have other things in your mind currently back in Japan?
You know what? It depends on what the United Empire's goal is. I'm back in America, in the States, so I can see TJP and Will Ospreay week. So that way I'll be able to see and we can talk and discuss stuff, because stuff gets lost in like text and emails and whatnot. So sitting down face to face trying to figure out a plan is definitely one way we're going to do. For me personally, I was wrestling young boy Okada all summer. Now we're going on to even more young boys at the Strong tapings and the pay-per-view. So, I kind of want to get away from Young Lions and Young Boys for a while. Me personally, I feel championship gold is my goal. Mm-hmm. Whether that be in New Japan Strong or New Japan in Japan, championship gold is definitely on my mind.
That's great. And another thing I want to talk about is the doors that are being opened everywhere. If it's with Impact Wrestling, MLW, we know Ospreay's strong up to MLW. We know TJP's in MLW. And the United Empire are going to be there soon. We know Impact has Bullet Club Central over there. have you made any interest to wanting to go anywhere over there to battle Moose for the title, or anyone else like Jacob Fatu, Alexander Hammerstone, and MLW?
You know, with this whole Forbidden Door thing being open or whatever, I hate that term. It's a stupid term.
Same.
But the fact that if they're smart enough to bring us in, but that would also be a dumb idea, because then we just take whatever championships we want. But on that token, or on that note, I'm not opposed to showing up anywhere. If Impact wants me to come in and beat up their guys, that's totally fine. Same can be said about MLW, AEW, Ring of Honor when they get back up and running. I am an equal opportunity suplexer. So it doesn't matter what brand you're on, you're going to get suplexed. It doesn't matter what company, whatever. It's, you're going to get suplexed. And, if the United Empire shows up, it's just trouble for their roster, whichever roster it may be.
You brought up AEW, and, we all remember seeing you be the mercenary, if I'm not wrong. They called you the mercenary of the Inner Circle. How was that like? Is that something that you pitched, or something you wanted to do, or was that something that was given?
That was something that was given. And, it was an opportunity for myself, and I took it. At the end of the day, it's whoever pays the most. And at that time, Jericho paid the most. And he's like, "Hey man, take out Mox." I was like, "Oh, I'll do my best as long as I get paid beforehand," which I did very handsomely by Jericho. Thank you, Chris. But yeah, so I mean, I'm always down to come back and return and do whatever. There's every roster has guys that I see. I'm like, you know what? I would like to fight him. So AEW's got some guys there that I would like to fight. And, same with Impact and MLW and Ring of Honor. So it's, it's just a matter of all the stars aligning, if you will.
All right. And something else I wanted to ask is your contract. What is your contract like? If it's with New Japan or it's, free agent, what is what can you do and what can't you do in that sense?
Well, my contract is with my main contract is with New Japan. But New Japan is very good at letting us work with other companies as well. Totally up to us. But New Japan compensates us to where we don't have to work if we don't want to. But I feel like, like I mentioned, I definitely want to wrestle as much as I can and continue to keep my fan base in America as well. So, whenever I'm here, if I feel like it, I'll wrestle. And if it's somebody I want to fight, definitely I will take a booking or two.
That's great. And something I did want to ask you is, when you were with AEW for that, short time, you were basically a free agent, correct, at that time?
Yeah.
Did you get any contract, any offers from other companies like WWE, like any other contracts? Could you pick New Japan? I think it's very fitting for you. I think New Japan definitely gives, people with like your energy, your type of wrestling, the atmosphere to show off everything they got without restricting them. Did you get any offers from any other places during that time? And how was the decision process like for you?
Yeah, I did get contract offers from other places, but at the end of the day, it was, WWE offered me a contract, great money. But at the end of the day, it's money is going to make, a lot of your problems go away, but it's not good. At the end of the day, money won't make you happy. So I wanted somewhere where I felt like I fit in more and I would have been happy. Like, if I went to WWE, I wouldn't be able to do a random indie booking if I wanted to, if I was off that weekend or something. New Japan, I love Japan. Like the culture is amazing out there. So, and the style of wrestling, like you mentioned, I definitely feel like I fit better in, and I felt at the time, New Japan was going to be my home, and it is my home. that's not to take anything away from other companies that offer me contracts, but because I am with New Japan and with this quote unquote forbidden door, I'm still able to pop up on like an AEW or Ring of Honor or MLW or Impact if the time's right. So yeah, I felt like I made the right choice.
Yeah, I totally agree. And tell me about that. Tell me about, moving to Japan. Obviously, you didn't move there, but you did wrestle there for a few months, and, it started to seem like living there, basically. How is it getting used to that culture, that crowd? Because they don't cheer and boo like, people in the U.S. do. They clap and they do other things differently than the way, fans do here.
Yeah, I like it because, like the Japanese audience hasn't been trained to do, oh, this is the time we start the "This is awesome" chant, those kind of things. Like for them, I feel like it's a real emotion and it's real, it's not like, okay, well, we got to clap now or we got to do this now. They do it when they want, they feel it. Mm-hmm. And just being in, like, I like Japan just because, I don't need a car out there. Public transportation is amazing out there, whether it be trains, bullet trains, short flights, or subways or whatnot. And so, I mean, I like it. And the food's great too, so I can't complain about that.
They get spotted a lot. Like when you go on those public transportations, they get spotted a lot by fans.
Well, I mean, the cool thing about Japanese fans is for the most part, they don't bug you. Mm-hmm. They kind of keep you along, which is cool because sometimes, after you got kicked in the head a few times in a match or something, and then you take a train or something, the last thing you want is like to be bombarded with pictures and stuff like that. So I mean, it's pretty cool in that sense.
Do you have any funny stories of when you started, wrestling in Japan? Anything that like you didn't get used to, something that you made like a mistake or something, or you didn't know where to go? If it's anything like that, like I remember when Wrestle Kingdom made their like announcement that they're coming, and they made a YouTube video for like the U.S. fans that like this is the way to get to the Tokyo Dome, and they like did a whole video of how you have to get to Tokyo Dome. Did you ever have any issue of like where to go or how to talk to someone or anything like that?
Well, no, just for the fact that New Japan pretty much takes us everywhere when we need to travel somewhere. Like for the Tokyo Dome shows, we're staying at the Tokyo Dome Hotel. So it's pretty much a hop, skip, and a jump away to go to the arena. So I like that. If we have to go to a show in another town, they're picking us up and say, hey, we got a bus or a van or a car picking you up at X amount of time in the lobby. And so those kind of things are great. Don't really have it. Like, I mean, I guess not knowing the train system will get you in trouble, but for technology and Google Maps. So I've gotten to the point where I don't need to rely on Google Maps too much. So I'm happy about that.
That's good. That's great to hear. No more issues like that. All right, yeah, we're getting, down to the final few questions, and, I wanted to ask you about Strong since, who knows what's going on. You're going to talk to the rest of the United Empire to see what the next goal is. If it is to stay on Strong, who do you want to face? I know there's a lot of amazing talent that comes to Strong and that, is on Strong. Is there anyone that you specifically been watching that you have a good idea that you want to get in the ring with them?
Oh man, okay. Well, I like to refer to him as No Days Off Fred. But I've been watching a lot of his, like when he started coming around to New Japan Strong, and I was doing a couple of tapings. I was like, man, like he didn't get a chance to shine in WWE. I'm enjoying the fact that he's getting a chance to show what he can do in New Japan. Mm-hmm. He's definitely been killing it. Although he hasn't run into a man like me. So, we'll see where that takes us. But yeah, Fred Rosser, yeah. He's definitely one that I feel like I can't wait to fight.
That's awesome. And one last thing I wanted to ask you, it's like a mind fart for me for a second. I know you wrestled in GCW and that blood something. I forgot what it's called.
Bloodsport.
Bloodsport. Yes.
Yep.
How was that like? Because I know it's a whole different thing than regular wrestling. There's no ropes there. It's very different. It's basically like jiu-jitsu, like you study. How is that like?
It's great. Because when you think of pro wrestling is just that. It's in the name of the sport that we're doing. It's wrestling. I love that style. I have so much respect for that style. I love the fact that Josh Barnett is doing it because it's not just some random fan or a random person or a random promoter doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a person that was a former professional wrestler, a former UFC champion that's pretty much the head of this and saying, listen, we're going to do this style. And I love it. And I love the fact that he's doing stuff like that. Because the basics and the basis of professional wrestling is wrestling. Now the no ropes thing that could cause a lot of trouble because, if I do a takedown on somebody and I keep running, we're gonna fall out that ring. But I don't want to kill anybody, so I try not to do that. Plus, I won't get any points if I do that. So, if and when I'm in town and I'm available to do that, I'm I've told them already, sign me up. I don't care who it's against. It's fun to test yourself and get out of your comfort zone. And I feel Bloodsport does that for a lot of people.
How was it like in the first match? How was it for you participating in it live and just seeing how the crowd is with it?
Oh, well, the one that I did was a no crowd one. 8 for 2 pay-per-views back in February. I'm excited to do a Bloodsport with fans. I tried to do the one in 2019, but Ring of Honor was like, you're in a very high-profile match.
We don't want you to get injured.
Yeah, in Madison Square Garden, but I did attend the Bloodsport show. That was the only show that I wanted to go watch was Bloodsport. And it was such a blast. I was so jealous that I couldn't partake. But I get where Ring of Honor was coming from. It's like, I'm not going to fight that too much, but man, like the atmosphere and the matches on that show was ridiculous. Yeah. I was sad I couldn't do it, but I was happy I was there.
And you brought up Josh Barnett, and it's such a huge announcement that he will be on New Japan. He's gonna be at the tour. How is that like? What does that change now in the game of wrestling? Since he only does his stuff, and now he's actually gonna participate in New Japan. How's that like? How's that like hearing it?
Josh Barnett's wrestled in New Japan before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, he definitely brings a different aspect to New Japan in general. I don't like to get hit in the face or kicked, but, wrestling a guy like him, yeah, it sounds fun. But, him being attached to us it only benefits both parties really. So, and because, the younger guys can learn from him and I can get a bigger name by beating Josh Barnett. So, it's cool.
And my final question to you is, out of wrestling a lot of people in your career, I know you made a lot of friends and you made a lot of, type of respect for a lot of wrestlers. Is anyone that you look to consider joining the United Empire whenever that time comes, or not like an invitation type of thing, but just like a name that you think would fit in the group if you had to pick one?
Oh man,
it could be anybody at all in wrestling.
I know I've been tagged a lot on social media about Bronson Reed, I guess this is WWE name, right?
Yeah.
Or
Jonah.
yeah,
It's Jonah.
Yeah. Jonah Rock, as he was known as I first met him as. You know, we've only had one match, and that was at PWG where we broke the ring. Thank God it didn't come out of our paychecks, but whatever. You know, that's a guy that I feel like I'd rather have him on our side than against us. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be happy. I mean, I don't know if we hit our quota with countries because we already have Aussie Open. So, but, you know, I'm pretty sure if we wanted him in it and he was willing to accept, I'm sure we could make an exception to the rule.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would love to see that. And you know, you brought up like the exception of having such a big roster of the United Empire. You know, you can't top Bullet Club. They have too many guys everywhere. Who knows who's a part of them? Who knows who isn't at this point? So I think the more the merrier when it comes to getting new members. You know, like you guys are an empire. Let it grow.
Right.
Let it grow. All right.
Right.
How can people follow you on social media? How can people support you, buy your merch, plug all your ways of contact or anything, like bookings even?
Oh, well, pretty much social media. It's Jeff Cobb on Instagram, Rio Jeff Cobb on Twitter. My email for booking is jeffcobb82@gmail. That way, all my stuff's pretty basic, Jeff Cobb, because it's easier for me to remember. And yeah, I have a nice little blue check mark, so you know it's me. And then I guess if you want to support, you know, like if you go to the New Japan website and you go to the shop, you can find New Japan merchandise for myself and the United Empire. And I guess some of the other guys too, like LIJ and Bullet Club, but whatever. But we really know that United Empire runs the merch game. So we got, you got that. My Pro Wrestling Tees is still available. So it's, you know, just go to Pro Wrestling Tees and just put in Jeff Cobb. And if you want to do some Suplex brand apparel, you go to a Suplex website and order all them nice little shirts that I'm getting in the mail hopefully today or tomorrow. So
what if someone wants like a 1 minute, you know, conversation or like a shout out or like a birthday shout out or something like that? How can people contact you there?
Oh, I did the Cameo thing for a while, but I always forget to check it. So I'm like, oops, I hope I didn't make a lot of people mad. If I did, I apologize. People were telling me to do the Pro Wrestling Tees one, and I keep forgetting to sign up for that. I'm going to do that this week. So I guess for Cameo.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeff. It was an honor to have you and such a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, man. Thank you for asking great questions instead of basic ones. So more props to you, man.
I appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you everyone for listening.